Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the football betting series here on YouTube Premier League edition. The series is in pretty good form right now. We were 5 of 6 in our last Premier League episode and we were 5 from 5 the week before, which means we've won 10 of the last 11 picks in the last 2 Premier League episodes. That means our January record now stands at 22 wins, 5 losses with 2 pushes, and a monthly profit of £199.60. When we add that to the overall record, we're standing at 119 wins, 45 losses with 20 pushes, and a series profit of £756.21. I've got 3 picks in today's episode, so if you think I'm talking some sense, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first pick sees 7th place Bournemouth playing host to top of the table Liverpool, and the Cherries, they shocked a fair few people with their dominant win in their last match against high-flying Nottingham Forest. Bournemouth cruised to a 5-0 win at the Vitality Stadium, with Dango Ouattara scoring a hat-trick which doubled his league tally for the season as he now has 6 goals. In terms of form, that win made it back-to-back victories for Bournemouth, and they've scored 9 goals in their last 2 games. The Cherries are also unbeaten in their last 11 Premier League matches. They host a Liverpool side who also picked up a convincing win in their last game against Ipswich. The Reds led 3-0 at half-time, and Gakpo added another in the second half to seal his brace and the 4-1 win for the Reds. Looking at the numbers, Liverpool won on every major win predictor statistic, and they made it show on the scoreline. In terms of form, that does mean it's 2 wins in a row for Liverpool, and they're unbeaten in their last 18 Premier League matches. When we look at the head-to-head record, the last encounter was a convincing win for Liverpool. A 2-minute brace from Diaz, followed up by another from Darwin Núñez, put the Reds 3-0 up at half-time. And that's how the score would remain. Looking at the numbers, Bournemouth did give a good account of themselves and deserved at least a goal bet on the balance of chances created, but Liverpool proved the more clinical of the 2 clubs. That win added to a 4-game winning streak across all competitions, with Liverpool winning 11 of the last 12 matchups between these sides. My prediction for today's game is that Liverpool do have a hectic Champions League season and a lot more fixture congestion that they are recovering from, playing 4 games in a 10-day period compared to Bournemouth's 2. So instead of going for a side, I'm going to take goals. Bournemouth have seen over 2.5 goals in 4 of their last 6 Premier League games, whereas Liverpool, they've seen over 2.5 in 7 of their last 9 Premier League games and in 5 of their last 7 away matches. In terms of the head-to-head record, each of the last 4 across all competitions have seen over 2.5 goals, and 13 of the last 14 encounters have seen at least 3 goals scored, and this does include 7 of the last 8 played at the Vitality. All of these numbers look pretty strong, so I'm going to back over 2.5 goals for a full stake in bet number 1. Our second selection sees 18th place Wolves playing host to 8th place Aston Villa. And Wolves lost again in their last match against Arsenal, despite being given a glimmer of hope with Miles Lewis-Skelly's red card just before half-time. They couldn't make the breakthrough, and then in the 70th minute, João Gomez picked up a second yellow and was sent off for a 10 versus 10 for the final 20 minutes. From here, Arsenal did run the show, and they did get the breakthrough goal thanks to Calafiori in a 1-0 win. In terms of form, that does mean it's 4 straight losses for Wolves in the Premier League, and they're winless in their last 5 matches. They host an Aston Villa side who were held to a draw in their last game against West Ham. It was a game of 2 halves really, in which Villa took the lead after just 8 minutes thanks to Jacob Ramsey, but looking at the numbers, despite being the away side, it was West Ham who had the better second period. They got their equaliser through Emerson to level the scores 1-1, and 1-1 it would finish. In terms of form, despite the draw, Aston Villa are still unbeaten in their last 5 Premier League games. When we look at the head-to-head record, the last match between these sides was also a game of 2 halves. Wolves took the lead through Cunha in the first period, and they also saw nearly 60% of the ball, outshooting Villa by 10 shots to 2, with 4-0 in terms of shots on target. However, it was the Villains that dominated the second half. They took almost 70% of the ball, with 7 shots to Wolves' 0, and they scored 3 goals. The first was through Ollie Watkins in the 73rd minute, and then Konsa put the hosts ahead after the 88th minute, with Duran putting the icing on the cake in the 94th for a 3-1 scoreline. In terms of form, this does mean it's back-to-back wins for Aston Villa over Wolves, and they are unbeaten in the last 3 head-to-head encounters. My prediction for today's game is that based on the recent forms and the relative league positions, as well as the head-to-head record, everything is pointing towards Aston Villa in this one. However, with the 11th best away record in the league, I am cautious. Additionally, Aston Villa will have to play twice as many games as Wolves in a 10-day period with the Champions League matches against Monaco and Celtic. So they will come into this match as the more fatigued of the two sides. So whilst I still fancy them to pick up the win, I'm going to exercise a little bit of caution and lay Wolves here, which will give me the assurance of a draw as well. And I'm going to do that for a full stake here in bet number 2. Our third and final selection in today's episode sees 11th place Brentford playing host to 15th place Tottenham Hotspurs. And Brentford, they picked up an away win in South London against Crystal Palace in their last game. A retake penalty put the Bees ahead through Mbuemo before Sharda doubled the lead just 10 minutes from time. Crystal Palace appeared dead and buried before the introduction of their new man Romain Eze, who scored within 1 minute of coming on to put the pressure on Brentford. Ultimately though, the Bees did hold up and they passed the test, winning 2-1. In terms of form, this win does break a brief 2-game winless run, and they did have 1 win in their last 7 Premier League games ahead of the Crystal Palace match. They host a Spurs side who played Leicester in their last game, a side that hadn't won in the last 7 Premier League matches before this fixture, and things got off to a good start for Spurs after Richarlison opened the scoring after just half an hour. However, I'm not too sure what happened at half-time in the dressing room, but Spurs came out very slow. Vardy levelled the scoring within the first minute of the second period, and the turnaround was completed 5 minutes later. From there on out, Spurs crumbled, and the Foxes claimed the 2-1 win. In terms of form, this result did continue a run of 4 straight losses on the bounce for Spurs in the Premier League. They haven't won any of their last 7 Premier League matches as well. When we look at the head-to-head record, despite Brentford scoring within the first minute of the game in the last match, it was Spurs who won last encounter. Solanke levelled the scores after just 8 minutes, with Johnson putting Spurs ahead within half an hour. Maddison ended the game as a contest in the 85th minute with his goal and Tottenham's third of the night. 3-1 the final score. In terms of form, that victory did make it 2 wins for Spurs in a row over the Bees. They're also unbeaten in the last 3 matches. My prediction for today's game is that both sides do like games with goals in them. They have tremendously strong records in recent weeks. Brentford have seen over 2.5 goals in 4 of their last 5 matches and in 7 of their last 9 games at home. Whereas Spurs, they've seen over 2.5 goals scored in each of the last 5 Premier League games and in 3 of their last 4 away matches. The head-to-head record is also strong. Each of the last 5 have seen over 2.5 for an average of 4.2 goals per game. So with all that in mind, I'm going to take over 2.5 goals for a full stake here in the final bet of today's episode. So there we have it, 3 picks in today's episode. Starting off with Bournemouth versus Liverpool. We're backing over 2.5 goals, odds of 1.54, a £40 stake to return 21.60. Also on the Saturday, we're laying Wolves in their game against Aston Villa, odds of 1.36, a full stake to return £14.50. And wrapping up the episode on the Sunday, Brentford versus Spurs, over 2.5 goals, odds of 1.35, a £40 full stake to return 14 in kind. So across the weekend, we're going to be risking £120 to hopefully pick up as much as £50 and 10 pence. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to tune into the next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Don't forget to check out the continental picks in the pinned comment down below. And as always, have yourself a lovely day.